All right, let's see. Hopefully, everyone can see us again. Things happen. This is what happens when you go live at times. Things just happen. So we will make sure, and I'll have my digital producer in Studio B to make sure that she can see everything live. And I see the live feed up on the other platform here. I believe she's going to give me a thumbs up. Yes, she does. All right. So we are back here with Rock Riley, myself, Martinez Company here on the Coastal Sports Network, brought to you by Sports Radio 102.9 The Game. For those who are watching over on YouTube, the feed should come up here momentarily. I'll check as Rock and I are back live. So hopefully, yep, I can see us back on YouTube. All right, so we're back with everyone.
Yay.
Thank you all for hanging in there. As Rock just mentioned, you talk about evolving and things happening. It happens. Sometimes, yeah, it happens.
Crap happens.
It sure does. But I'm here with Rock, good friend of mine, Rock and I. Rock, I'm starting to believe, and I thought about this as we were talking. Maybe for next USF season, should we have a 2 minutes with Rock and Angel before anything even kicks off?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I that's a possibility. That is a possibility. They got to take that next step. I'm hoping. I did a was it a podcast? No. It was on the radio show. Talked to a longtime college football writer and said, "Will we ever see the day again where the Gators, Knowles, Miami Hurricane are a top 5 program all in the same time?" Because a lot of times there's reciprocal, you know how it goes, and it goes in stages. And he doesn't think so.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know, because there was that heyday. It was either Bobby Bowden and the Knowles, there was Spurrier and the Gators, the Miami Hurricanes, how good they were. And I was like, is there enough players? Yeah, there is, because the hotbed is Texas, California, Florida, mostly Florida. And yeah, you got UCF and USF and FAU, and there's more, and the poaching, this and that. There's enough players. But I don't know. But that's a topic for another day. That's college football, another day, Angel.
It sure is. And by the way, for those who don't know, Rock will hopefully join me here when he gets some spare time. I know Rock is crazy busy as well, but I always enjoy having Rock here on the show. It's always a good time. In case you guys have missed it, as we are here at quarter till 12 o'clock here on the East Coast, so it'll be 9 a.m., I guess, or a little after, yeah, but 9:45 here on the, it'll be 9:45, excuse me, or 8:45 on the West Coast. But if you guys have not listened to Rock's podcast, The Rock Stops Here, I would ask you guys to do Rock a favor. Not only give him a follow on the social medias, but also on Spotify. You guys will not be bored. You are on the plane, you're on a train, you're traveling, wherever it is that you're traveling. Rock's insight, his guests are always a great time. So please give my good friend Rock Riley a follow on the social audios, because it's always a great time with The Rock Stops Here. Now, speaking of, as we've been talking football, and I'm pretty sure we can get into some other football stuff as well, but the other hot topic, other than the Lightning losing last night to the Blackhawks, 5-game homestand, lost game 1 of 5. They're back on the ice tomorrow night. But Tampa Bay Rays, Rock, we find ourselves in a situation with St. Pete, and now you're starting to really, really wonder who is to blame. You have the Rays who point towards the St. Pete Council. St. Pete Council says, no, it's the Rays. They're not really communicating with us. And now the fan base are the ones that are paying for it, because the only thing that we know so far for this season is that they'll be over at Steinbrenner Field, directly across from Tampa Bay, from the Ray J Stadium, which I think they should have been in the first place. But the Yankees, hey, listen, George Steinbrenner saw a future. He saw it in Tampa, and therefore that's why they end up playing there as far as the Yankees minor league team. But also the Rays are helping, according to the deal was, they were going to help with field number 2 in case, one was because obviously for the games and the way the schedule works this year, but for next year, for the improvements, and I don't know if it will happen again, because now St. Pete Council said, we said that we can approve the money, but we never said that we have to make the repairs by 2026. Now, it's only paper mache. I don't understand why you just don't get a tarp, tie down a couple bungee cords, and we're off and running to the races until another hurricane comes by. But now we're in this situation where I understand the Gaslight District, it is a $1 billion piece of property right now. And they wanted to include the Rays in that. The problem becomes if St. Pete truly didn't want the Rays in there, even though they said that they did, the stakes have now gotten higher for the Rays because now they got to figure out, do we really truly want to stay someplace where we feel that we're really not welcomed? We want to stay in the Bay Area, or do we finally go over to Tampa Bay, over in Tampa, and say, hey, listen, Mayor, could we have a really heart-to-heart conversation and figure out if Ybor City or somewhere in that logistical area makes the most amount of sense? Because again, a lot of folks have said if they were over on the Tampa side, more fans would show up because, and let's be honest, where it is right now in St. Pete, yeah, it's no one wants to deal with the traffic going across Howard Franklin, going across the Gandy. Then it's just you're inside. Basically, it's like you're funneling everyone into downtown St. Pete. And then when you exit out, it's the same way, depending on how many venues are going on in the area. But I don't understand, Rock, what is going on with the Rays and the St. Pete Council, because we are all up in the air trying to figure out what's the next move.
It is a mess. And it's for the first time since I've been covering this story for over 20 years that I'm really concerned about the Rays moving out of Tampa Bay. Now, I know the commissioner came here and met with the Pinellas County heads and telling them Major League Baseball does not want to lose the Tampa Bay market. It continues to grow. People, even with the two back-to-back hurricanes, continue to move here. The area keeps getting bigger. And all these other places that they're mentioning are smaller. And no one, to my knowledge, has come up to Stu Sternberg and say, hey, move here. Like you hear Nashville, you hear Raleigh, you hear Charlotte, you hear Salt Lake, you hear Portland, Oregon. Nobody has come and said, we got this amount of money. We're going to build you the stadium. Come here. If that was the case, I think he would be gone. So that hasn't happened. And now we're in the predicament where, yes, it probably would do better in Tampa. You don't have just water surrounding the trop, you have population. People were driving down the I 4 corridor. Yes, but Tampa hasn't come up with the money. It's been how many years? I've talked to these elected officials. They don't have the money. So
Yeah.
they don't have the money. The money isn't there. So now you're right. It's the developmental rights all around the Trop, the Gaslight District. And St. Pete, you signed that deal giving those rights to Stu Sternberg, the owner of the Rays. He could eventually move the team and still have the rights to develop and make all that money, bars, restaurants, condos, apartments. So, and now Tampa came through with the hurricane. Okay. Act of God. The roof is gone. They have these, the insurance adjusters have come through. I was talking to a guy that went into a sports bar in Tampa right after the hurricanes. Guy's a sportscaster in Tampa Bay. He's sitting there and he's talking to this guy. He's like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from out of town, blah, blah, blah. I'm from Lloyd's of London. I'm dealing with the insurance with the Tropicana Field. Really? No, that's just one. It isn't just one insurance company. There's a boatload. There's one insurance company that takes care of the roof. Another one is the field. Another one is the offices. Do you know the offices where the front office is? The cubicles? There's no roof. I mean, it damaged everything. Underneath Tropicana Field, where you see the field, there's concrete.
Mhm.
Under that is electrical. It isn't just like, oh, you can just put a temporary tarp. Everything so much damage. So the initial estimate is $59 million just to get it up to speed to be able to play baseball. And you're going to pay 59 million, and it could be more. 59 million just to get it ready for 2 years,
Right.
and then you're you're going to put all that money, a couple $1 billion, into a new facility. Who's going to do that? Meanwhile, the Yankees come say, you know what? We'll help you out. But we're only going to do this for 1 year. We're not
Right.
going to do this for 3 years because you're going to change the clubhouse and they move out and it's the Yankee, for their spring training. And they already had been upgrading the clubhouse and some of the facilities. My friend Fred McGriff has been over there and toured. And I said, what about during like batting practice? 5 o'clock in Tampa, 5:30. That's when you get those afternoon thunder showers, lightning. You're going to have BP batting practice inside. He's like, they got a really good indoor facility at Steinbrenner Field. But again, it's Major League Baseball. The union is very, very strong, and they're not going to let the Rays play in a minor league facility for 3 years. That ain't going to happen. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen after this year? Where are they going to go? Are they going in St. Pete City Council? Are they gonna? They're responsible. You're going to pay 59 million, and what is insurance going to pay? From what I understand, insurance from their coverage now that it's all said is only going to take care of 20 million. So you're going to St. Pete Council, St. Pete City. You got so much that you got to put into helping people from the hurricane. Are you going to put $30 million into your own money in the budget? 30 million? Because the last thing on it, they lowered their insurance premium going into this year. They looked at it and they said, man, we're paying a lot in the insurance premium to cover the trop. Let's lower it. And wouldn't you know it, it's the year that you get hit by the hurricane.
Yeah.
So they're only covered for like 20 to 25 million, and it's going to cost 59 million to fix. It's a mess, Angel. It is a mess.
It is, and you're right, because I know it's easier for all of us to say, well, why don't you just tear it down since it's going to cost $59 million? And there's more logistics to go along with it too, because before, even if St. Pete decided, along with the Rays, to say, okay, you know what, screw it, we already know what's going to happen. The Gaslight District is going to go through a rebuild mode, but now you have to go back to all these other contractors that you have and to say, hey, by the way, we were thinking, is it all right if we move it up by 3 years? Because now everything changes. Numbers change. Everything changes. So, of course, it's easier to say for us, just get rid of the freaking thing. But again, logistics, we have to go through it.
Yeah, and that's what Sternberg actually said. Now, look, the Rays are definitely part of the problem and to blame. No doubt. No doubt. Okay. But he even said the same thing. This isn't just some contractors or Billy Bob that lives in Largo and Johnny Boy that's in Pasco County. No, we have to build a stadium like that. We have contractors that are coming from different parts of the country. They've got it all set. It isn't just like so you can't just change the dates. You can change it, but it's going to cost so much more. And then who's going to pay for that? Honestly, I don't have any. It's a mess. It is a mess, Angel. It
It is a
really
mess.
is.
Yeah. Now we got to figure out, because you got to figure, you can't even stay in Port St. Lucie, because now you got your minor league team. It's the same way. What are you going to do with them? And you would have to come up with some crazy
Oh,
schedule.
Poor Charlotte, because
Poor
Mets
Charlotte,
fans,
yeah, excuse
they'll
me.
get on you, Mets fans there, buddy. But
Yeah.
poor Charlotte, no, you're right. You're right. You go ahead, Angel. I'm sorry.
But it's absolutely nuts. By the way, Joey B says, rock segment, I've learned more in the last 15 minutes than I did in 4 years of North Jersey high school. Great segment.
Ah,
By Joey B, a great listener. Joey B, who's been around the network for many years now. But no, it is a huge mess, Rock, because now you don't have, even if you went to Sarasota where the Pirates play, for example, if you wanted to keep people locally, I think you can't do it with Dunedin, with the Blue Jays, because it's the same way. You had at one point when they were thinking about when Toronto was thinking, like, all right, do we either redo Rogers Center, or if we do something else, can we put the Blue Jays there and along with their affiliate team? But Major League Baseball also said too, listen, I understand what you guys want to do. We really can't allow that to happen, because you will be looking at 4 to 5 years if that's the case. 1 year is a whole different story. You can kind of work everything out. 4 to 5 years is different. So if it being the case, you really have to look for like what would make the most amount of sense. And no offense to St. Pete Council, if I'm in that situation too, and I got to figure out these are tax dollars, these are things that are happening. We've got other bigger priorities to take care of. We just had 2 back-to-back major hurricanes. We had a crane for some reason. I don't know why that company chose not to bring down the crane. Came down on one of the longest running papers here in the local area. I don't know what you were thinking, but they have bigger things to worry about than to figure out what the Rays do or don't want to do. And it's just making the fan base more irritating, because what's happening now is we know just as much as you know. Yankees come to town, Red Sox come to town, Chicago comes to town, Philly comes to town, sell out. Everybody else, it's like, do I really want to go there? And the only ones that really go are your locals. Now it's great because you can catch not minus this year, obviously in Tampa Bay might be a whole different story, but you can go, what, 10, 15, $20 max
Right.
down in the Trop. And even though it's not the best field, it was the most awkward place to play baseball. But I've come to really enjoy the place
Agree.
because it's so weird, but it makes sense. But I know the Rays now have to really kind of come down to if Mayor Jane Castor, and I understand because of the funding, you can't do it. There's got to be a conversation either with a private contractor. If you, I don't know, do you talk to Saudi Arabia and figure out, hey, you guys are doing this whole live golf thing. How about we have a live baseball for the Rays? Something has got to give, but it's got to happen. I would say even before the month of May, which isn't that far away, because you got to figure out truthfully right now what you're going to do for next season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of all those things you're bringing up. It's good. What about free agents? Are they going to want to come with the uncertainty?
Yeah.
One of the Marlins back in the day when they played at Joe Robbie Stadium, he was like, there's so many delays, so many delays. You look at the Florida State League; it isn't like a lot of, like you said, it doesn't rain for usually for long periods of time, but there's going to be delays, and you're in the heat and humidity, and what's Kevin Cash got to do? And you know, baseball players, especially at the major level, they're such creatures of habit,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just going to change things. They're going to get used to it. Is it going to be somewhat of a home field advantage? I don't know, but it is high. If you're not wherever your viewers and listeners are from, man, if you're not from the Tampa Bay area or Florida, it is so humid and hot. And especially when you're out there in the field, you think it's only night. No, they're out there at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 4:30, man, and it's brutal. And then you walk in that trop and it's 72 degrees. Thank God. That's not going to be the case, man.
Yeah.
So, and then they've raised the prices a lot. So then the diehards that have supported the raise are like, oh my God, we got to pay this much more, because it seats about 11,000. Can you imagine if those games aren't sold out? Then once how that's going to go. So I wish I was being more positive. I can't wait. I'll be going down to Port Charlotte. I'll try to get a feel and let you know. But it just doesn't look good, man. And the A's, they lost their team, and you always think that it can't happen. I was always like, oh, Tampa Bay's never going to get a direct hit. We've been so lucky. And then you get the back to back, and you look at the devastation that it
Yeah.
took. So I hope there's some type of solutions going forward with the Rays, Angel.
I do too, because if not, we're going to be, I mean, the fan base, those of us who love baseball, I mean, it's not like I'm traveling back up to Citizens Bank Park in Philly to go watch a game. Like I'll go to a Rays game just because again, it's such a quirky place, but you end up following this team, you see what's going around. And the same way, like I've been following the Bucs now since moving down here, especially, starting the network, the same way with the Lightning. I mean, you become a hometown homer. I don't care who says what. They can say, well, you don't like the Phillies anymore. It's not the case. It's when you're doing radio and digital platforms, you have to stay in the know with what's going on. But the Rays have been a really interesting story, even when I lived in Philly, because they still had these problems trying to figure out what to do next. And then the same thing with Montreal. The Expos are now, the Nationals, and we wanted to bring these guys up, and we wanted to call them the X-Rays, which I thought was the silliest thing ever. You would imagine what kind of merchandise you would have. I mean, bones, you name it. It would be the worst thing ever, CT machines. I mean, you can forget about it if that was going to end up happening. That was put to rest. Major League Baseball said, absolutely forget about it. And then the one thing that kind of really blew my mind was at one point, the Rays organization said, hey, why don't we go play in the Oakland Coliseum? Because Oakland decides they want to go to a small league ballpark until everything is done in Las Vegas. I'm like, so wait a minute. You don't have fans that come in regular attendance at the Trop, but you're willing to take this team to the West Coast and screw up everything logistically possibly wrong in the world? That made no sense.
No, that was never happening, and I did not hear that from the Rays at all. That was an option. One of them was maybe Durham, their AAA facility, but they said no, and they're undergoing a renovation, so that wasn't happening. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to get through this year and see. Do maybe it's not 59 million? Do they do something for 25 million just to get it ready for 2 years and then have the new ballpark? I don't know. But I was talking to a member of the broadcast team that is a former major league pitcher, and he said no, they're going to have to get the Trop somehow playable, and it's not going to be a minor league facility here for 3 years. But who knows, Angel? Who knows?
I know. I don't get it.
Who honestly knows, man? But baseball is right around the corner after the Super Bowl, Angel.
It sure is. And the last thing I want to get into here, Rock,
Yeah,
and appreciate the time with you, with me here this morning, but Chicago White Sox, it's another team that's just in self implosion mode. I mean, there's no one knows what's going to happen on the West Side up there in Chicago because there's been zero talks during the winter meetings. There was no significant moves. It just seems like the White Sox are coming into this season like, so who is of anybody? Do you work for whatever the supermarket is out there in the area? Can you pitch? Can you hit? We're looking for a couple good guys to come play on our team here because that organization is just, they're all over the place. Like if you were to draw a map
yeah,
and a bunch of little
yeah.
squiggly lines and say, this is where we are, that's where Chicago White Sox is right now because there's been absolutely zero talk of improvements of any sort for the White Sox. And you got to think about Anderson, a couple guys that are still there. How much longer can you keep those guys there without trying to have an actual plan on saying, okay, we got the right skipper. Now we just got to build around of what we don't have at this point. But the White Sox are the biggest mess right now coming into this season. Even as the Red Sox kind of were last year, the White Sox by far and beyond are maybe the biggest bust even before the season starts.
Yeah, you know what? You need to start honestly. I know it's not with your minor league system, and you need someone to come in with a vision, with new ideas, because I looked at it when the Rays were the Devil Rays. And again, Major League Baseball, as you know, doesn't have a salary cap. So the biggies that spend normally are the ones that you're going to get the best players. It comes down to the best players. But I remember when Lou Piniella, it was at the end, he took the losses hard when they were the Devil Rays. He wouldn't go home. He would
Mhm.
stay in the clubhouse in his office. He hated to lose, and the losses were eating at him. He had been around so long, and he had his buddies that he grew up in West Tampa. They would come in. I'd see these guys who, oh, those are there, and then his son was also there, and they would go in there and they'd stay there. He didn't even want to go home. And then I said to him, I said, Lou, and he goes, the new guys that were taking over, the Wall Street guys that were coming in, and they were about rebuilding, but it was going to take a while. They were going to build from the minor league system. And Lou goes, I don't have time, man. I want to win now. I'm not here for the rebuild. Okay. The manager they're getting, and it was Joe Madden. He had never been a manager on the major league level. He had been a bench coach, and he had been a long time minor league guy in the Angels organization. And he goes, he's ready to. It's going to take time, but they're going to rebuild. I'm not here for rebuilding. So Lou leaves. He comes in. And I even said to him, I said, with the high payroll Yankees and Toronto and the Red Sox, the Rays are never going to win an AL East. Never in my lifetime. And he said, I'm going to change it. I'm going to change the culture. I know that gets thrown around a lot. And he tried different things. He let the players be the players. You don't have to, little things. You don't have to wear suits he goes, who you trying to impress? The flight attendant? Who do you see? You're what, the shortstop is going to impress the outfielder on the plane? These guys come off the plane. They don't have to go to the front desk to check in. They get their key, boom, the bags come to their room. They don't even have to, everything's done for you. Then you go in the hotel. Why do you have to wear suits? He did the different things. Today is American Legion Ball. What's American Legion Ball? Do you remember the days when you played Legion Ball? You drove your pickup, you drove your car, you were already dressed from your house, and you didn't even you stretched a little bit, but there was no big warm ups. Today's American Legion Day. You can get dressed in your house and come to the game. We're gonna bring in this and that. We're gonna make it different. We're gonna let you be you. And these players in this day and age are like, wow, this is different, man. And so it took a guy like Madden. It took the guys in the front office, young guys, build the minor league system. It takes that. You need an influx. You need to change things. It isn't working. You need something like that. And I'm just harkening back to my days when I saw the turnaround. And then I remember being in the clubhouse when they beat the Red Sox. Aki Ikwamura steps on second base. They're going to the World Series against the Phillies. And I'm in the clubhouse and they are celebrating. There's beer and champagne. It's all over. And Tom Foley was the third base coach. He had been in the baseball a long time. And he looks at me, he had goggles on. He's like, Rock, we're the Devil Ray. We're going to the World Series. The World Series. I'm like, can you believe it? And Evan Longoria is there. He was 22 years old. And there was two young guys that were 22 years old there. And one of the guys, Eric Hinsky, had been around. He comes over to Longoria and he goes, do you realize how lucky you are? I've been in the big leagues it's your first year and you're with the Devil Ray. You're going to the World Series. Do you realize? But it was great to see. It can happen, but you got to change it up and put the right people in place.
It's true. So true. We'll see. This year, I'm really looking forward to it. Although every year we probably all say it as well, but I'm looking forward to this season. I think there's going to be some surprise teams that were trying to get better last year. The Orioles continue to go in that path. The Orioles at one point will get back to the World Series, or not at least back to ALCS. There's going to be teams that are going to be surprising. And I know a lot of folks are pissed off at the Dodgers because like, oh, the rich get richer. That's what happens. Unfortunately, it stinks. But they got themselves a loaded, studded farmhouse for pitchers. They've picked up unreleased pitchers. I mean, the Dodgers are looking to at least be a dynasty as they were from years, yesteryears. So that's just the way it's going to work, whether people like it or not. Sorry, folks, it's Dodgers. It just gives you one more reason to hate them more if you guys end up hating them. Phillies and Dodgers have never had a good, blood relationship. So it is what it is. But I can't wait. Baseball season right around the corner. Pro Bowl is this week. Next week, the Super Bowl. Kansas City Eagles. It's going to be a great time. And more importantly, thanks to Rock for joining me here for the last 2 hours. I appreciate his time. Don't forget to give Rock a follow at Real Rock Riley on Twitter or X, as the younger folks call it X. We still love to call it Twitter nonetheless. But also on Instagram, the Real or Rock Stops Here, the podcast. Listen in, listen often on Spotify, wherever you guys listen to your favorite audio downloads. Give them a listen. It's never a dull time with Rock. And Rock, as much as we say we can't wait for things, I can't wait to be back up there with you inside the media center at USF. It's going to be a great, great time come next year. And who knows where else we'll be teamed up at.
You never know. You never say never. It's always a pleasure. You're a good man. And what you're doing with your network and growing it, it's like the Rays. You came from that and you're growing it and you're doing a great job. So it's always an honor and pleasure. Can't wait to be back with you, Angel.
No problem. Thank you to Rock. It's always a great time. Don't forget, you guys, later on this afternoon, we will have Bees World from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Our guest, Rich Cimini from the New York Jets, journalist, reporter for the New York Jets. We'll get into a lot of Jets talk this evening. And then closing out the night here on the Coastal Sports Network, we'll be talking hoops, Coach Mack, Coach Johnson, Doc Riley. They'll cap the NBA, WNBA, and the G League. And with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the content at sr1029game.com. And yes, the merch store will be hopefully, God willing, everything will be ready by this afternoon. Worst case scenario, it'll be on Friday. But nonetheless, thank you all. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.